Welcome to Canada's podcast.
Hello, I'm Mario Toneguzzi, Managing Editor of Canada's Podcast. My guest today on Calgary's podcast is Philomena May, who is owner of Philo Financial Solutions and a Senior Wealth Advisor for Raymond James. Thanks for joining us today, Philomena.
Nice to see you again, Mario. And thanks for having me on.
All right, super. Let's talk a little bit about what you do, and maybe we'll start from there. Just explain a little bit about your career and what your business is all about right now.
So I am a senior wealth advisor and chartered investment manager, and have been an advisor over the last 21 years and transitioned over the years to a couple different firms, to all the way from career-based to then starting my own company.
Okay.
And what we do is myself and my team, we create financial plans and advise on a holistic level. So it's not just the investment side or insurance, but looking at the big picture from even a tax standpoint, estate planning, cash flow, and overall working with families to make sure they're doing all the right things.
So, growing up in Calgary as a little girl, I imagine you didn't have dreams of becoming a financial professional, but tell me how you got into this and why.
Well, I mean, growing up in an immigrant Italian family, we always learned to pinch your pennies. We didn't have a lot growing up. And so I was always taught to save, and all the way from then being a bookkeeper of my father's electrical company from the age of 16, and working with their accountant and doing that. And I know initially I wanted to be a lawyer, but I didn't think I was smart enough. So I was going to go into teaching. And then I didn't like kids that much. But now I'm teaching adults. And I ended up getting my degree in tourism and management. And I was actually managing 12 men just straight out of university. And then a new boss came in, male. It was initially a female, and he basically said a woman doesn't belong in this department, and slowly cut hours, got rid of the female boss. And then I thought there's something out there for me. I always saw myself behind a desk doing something powerful. I just didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, I put my resume out on Workopolis at a time when the internet was just fairly new, and I didn't even know if my resume got out into the world. And 3 weeks later, I received a call from a wealth management firm asking me if I wanted an interview as a financial advisor. And I said, "What's that?" So went for my interview. I had a very lengthy personality test. It came back very well. And they said, "You would be great in this career." So I gave myself a year. I had to take extensive exams to even get into the industry. And they said, "Well, you've got 3 weeks until our next training session if you want to get yourself to Edmonton, but you've got to pass 3 exams if you want to make the next one." So I worked part-time with the same company. And within 3 weeks, I passed all 3 exams that normally take about 6 months to complete. So I just had a fire in my belly that I just knew I was meant to do this. And I gave myself a year, and then made it, not only got through it, but got to Rookie of the Year.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, but it wasn't easy by any means. I mean, the first day on the job, I was in tears, and one of the managers handed me a box of Kleenex and said, "Sweetheart, maybe you're not cut out for this." And so my boss at the time, he got angry, and he said, "You just tell that guy to, like, just do not," I'm sugarcoating what he said,
Yeah.
"but get back on the phones and don't stop."
Wow.
And then he guided me, and he taught me how to use a state-of-the-art software that was very new at the time. So this is 21 years ago. Now it's sort of becoming mainstream.
Yeah.
He said, "This is your ticket. You get good at this and you will kill it." And so I really tried to become a student of the business and know it inside and out. And then that's how I started to get a lot of the accounts of some of the senior management and senior advisors, they wanted me in on the meetings.
Oh,
And because I had something unique that they didn't understand. It used to be napkin pitches for many, many years, right? It was very old school.
yeah,
There were very few women in the industry, so less than 5%.
yeah.
And to this day, we're sitting at about 17, 18%. So it's still we're we're outnumbered by men.
Our hosts come from all corners of Canada, bringing diverse perspectives and insights to the table. CanadasPodcast.com. Subscribe now.
What do you think got you through that time, especially being, female in such a male-dominated industry?
I I don't like being told that I can't do something.
Huh.
So there was just there was something about it. Failure was not in my nature. And again, having grown up in the household that I did, I mean, I looked at the sacrifices that my parents took to get here
Yeah,
and then all the education that I took and then continuing to do that. I mean, I was fully invested and I just gave it my all and I didn't want to stop. So I just continued with the education. With all of what I've done to date, I probably could have been a lawyer and then some, but I do love what I do. And the biggest thing for me was to help people. I knew I had a gift of helping people in the way that I talk to them and I'm there for them. It wasn't even about knowing the craft. It was about helping people.
yeah. So is that the main thing that you like about this career right now?
Absolutely. I mean, investing is can be exciting. It was
Yeah,
it's definitely a roller coaster of a career and the waves of the market. I mean, we went through the pandemic and then coming out of that, I mean, I definitely have to be on all the time. But at the end of the day, an investment is an investment, and I can do that with my eyes closed.
yeah,
But having the skill and the genuine concern and relationship with my clients, that is what keeps me going.
do you
And
know?
that is a gift in my opinion.
Yeah,
And then it's also the intuitive side. So I'm very much an intuitive and understanding the root of the matter and having compassion around it.
yeah. The whole financial literacy stuff, Philomena, do you think there's been over the years an improvement in literacy when it comes to this, or are we still in this sort of the stage where a lot of people really don't understand a lot of this stuff and kind of are overwhelmed or scared about all this stuff?
I We've come a long way. I mean, like I said, the internet is big and it could work for or against you. So, Dr. Google, we know that even with physical ailments and looking things up, and it's not always what you see on the internet is not always truth. So, um, that's why it's important to make sure you know what you're reading and understand it, and having a relationship with different professionals, whether it be with myself or involving lawyers, accountants. Everybody is so different, and to try to conceptualize all of it and take the emotion out for yourself is a whole different animal.
Yeah.
So yes, we've come a long way, but I'm still seeing a lot of gaps. And even in the school system,
Oh, yeah.
they've started to teach it, but nowhere near where we should be. Like
Mm.
kids should be learning about this when they're
Oh,
much younger.
true. So true. Yeah. So when you look at your career now, like you worked obviously with firms and now you're also with your own company. What is it about being, I guess, an entrepreneur that you like, being the boss of your own company?
Well, it can be great, but it could really suck at times. um,
Imagine.
but even when I was with the career-based firm, it was essentially my own business. So,
Yeah.
like I said, I kind of fell into it, and I didn't even know I was going to be an entrepreneur. They told me after the fact. So they basically said, "Here you go. You'd be great."
Yeah.
Like, great. Finished my exams. When do I start? Oh, by the way, you've got to buy a computer and you've got to do this and you got to go out and get your own business. And so evolving from that, then I started my own company 6 years later.
Yeah.
And so then I was full on entrepreneur with my own brand and developing that. And that's one thing is how do you develop your own brand so people know who you are? That's one thing. And then as far as evolving to then having my own branch as of 6 years ago. So there's staffing issues and even having gone through the pandemic, I mean, learning how to navigate through things you can't control. So as entrepreneurs in general, there's
Yeah.
always something we can't control. There's always something that comes at you and you're like, now what do I do?
Yeah. Yeah. For
So,
sure.
but it can also be rewarding because the harder you work, the more rewarding it can be.
Yeah.
And so as long as you have the right people with you and beside you, you can do a lot. And even in the last 10 years, had I not had good people with me, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Stay ahead of the game with our expert tips and strategies that will help your business thrive in a digital era. CanadasPodcast.com. Subscribe now.
How do you juggle? One of the things that I remember years ago, a friend of mine who was an artist, a really accomplished artist, telling me was that, he said, Mario, I've really got two jobs. He said, one is I'm an artist and that's what I do, right? But then the other job is I'm the owner of my business and I have to market my company. I'll make sure everything is going well and, all that type of stuff. How do you juggle that yourself? Being a financial advisor and obviously in the owner of a company.
Losing a lot of sleep. So I just had to learn. And for me, it was about being the squeaky wheel because I would see things, I would visualize things and say, how do I do that? So then I would talk to people that I thought were smarter than me.
Yeah.
How do I do this? How do I master that craft? How do I master that craft? And it was fine until like while I was small, I didn't know about all this stuff. And then, like I said, in the age of the internet, I started to see, well, I actually need to create a brand. I actually need to market myself. How do people know me and who I am?
Yeah.
And then how do I get the right people and relaying the message?
Yeah. No, I hear you.
So there's the day-to-day with the emails, the meetings, the phone calls. And then there's a whole other side where I need to develop, and it is a business. So I've had to transition a little bit from working in the business and now to on the business. So I'm still very much in the business, but trying to mentor and hire correctly so that they can take some of that heavy lifting so that I can master my own craft
Yeah.
and optimize what I'm doing as a branch and as my business and creating that balance for myself.
Now, how would you describe your brand?
I would say it's dynamic. Um, I've always been a bit of a disruptor, so I like to be first in line of doing different things and being okay with failure. So you have to be able to try different things and be okay with failure, knowing that the next step you're going to be that much better. And so I try to represent all those things, not just for myself, but to create a message to people out there. Before I used to be more so women empowering women, but as time evolved, and I found myself also doing public talks and being on panels to empower men, I realized that there's a general consensus out there It's just not spoken. So how do I represent that I'm not just there for my clients, but I'm also there for colleagues? So
Yeah.
I would say that's who I represent.
Okay, then. So, one of the things that you mentioned, and I'm looking at your bio, you've done a lot of stuff in terms of public speaking, I guess, right? And a lot of stuff like commentating on stuff. How's that been? And have you enjoyed that, or?
I do, but again, it's wearing the different hats and
Yeah,
the time.
yeah,
So I've scaled back a little bit temporarily when I went through COVID. I mean, I went on BNN for a bit, and then I needed to get back into the business because my business started to explode.
yeah.
um, but I truly enjoy it, and I still do it even with the university in mentoring, part of panels, even within the company, whether it's in the US or Canada. Um, for me, that's what lights me up is giving my message. And if I've changed someone's life in a small way, that's rewarding to me. So
Oh,
I still continue to do it.
oh, excellent then. So, when you look back at your career, what advice would you give to young females entering the profession now?
Be that squeaky wheel. Don't be afraid to ask questions and try to, and this is for men too.
Yeah.
Um, Become a student of the business. Whatever you want to do, master that craft. So find something that you're passionate about, learn it really well, and try not to know all of it at once. Just take it bit by bit,
Mhm.
and don't be intimidated that you don't know it all. So one thing that I had to overcome, and it still is in the back of my mind all the time, because there's always something new. It's impossible to know everything, is that imposter syndrome. And it's come up time and time again as I'm mentoring these university kids, even as I'm mentoring peers, it comes up. So we all put on the hat that we know everything, but there's always that fear that, oh my gosh, I might not know the answer. Or am I qualified enough? But you don't have to know it all, and you don't have to have all your ducks in a row. And even just to get started, just start today. And I
Mm.
say that even to clients or to the talks that I do. It's start today, even if it's from a financial standpoint. Don't get stuck. Don't get frozen.
Join our thriving community of like-minded individuals who share a passion for success and innovation. CanadasPodcast.com. Subscribe now.
So, and looking back on that career of yours, is there anybody or any or group of people that you kind of looked up to and as examples? Not necessarily on a personal side of things, but more like out there in the world, of business, etc. That you kind of admired and looked up to.
I mean, there's a lot of successful people out there. But I guess the people that have even overcome adversity,
Yeah,
how did they overcome it? You look at some of the greatest leaders, they've all had stuff happen, whether it was personally or professionally. So
yeah.
I wouldn't pinpoint it to one person, but even the person that hired me, you know, I live in gratitude of saying thank you, even though, they may not have met my expectations at the time of how
Hmm.
they followed through on different mentorship, but it actually taught me to have a tougher skin.
Uh,
And that's one of the lessons.
yeah.
I had to have a very tough skin to even be in this industry, like walking into a conference and I was the only female. Like
Well,
I wanted to turn around and go back to my hotel room.
yeah.
But so so looking at people and understanding what it means to build confidence, because I never got into the business having confidence initially. It developed over time and looking up to people and how did they do it. So seeing how they evolved. Well, if he or she can do it, I can do it.
Yeah, exactly. So, Philomena, what did you learn from your parents?
Well, save money. Don't be wasteful. I have a few too many shoes right now, so I didn't listen on that part. But I also make more than I did then. But and be a good person. You know, have the values and integrity of how they grew up.
Mm,
So those are massive lessons that I've taken on and passed on to my children, and that's important.
yeah. So tell me a little bit about your personal side of things. I know you're heavily involved in the Italian community locally. Tell me a little bit about that.
So I am the president of the Calgary Calabrese Cultural and Heritage Society, which is celebrating Calabria. So that's the tip of the boot, and we're quite predominant here in Calgary. There's another Italian group, but uh, we've really been pushing along to make a difference in the community, and we raise funds for scholarships to award once a year at our annual banquet,
Mm,
which is every January, and 400 people. I mean, it's quite big. We enjoy putting it on. And then we've also been putting on other events throughout the year to try to raise funds so we can make a bigger impact.
mm. Okay, then. Why is it important for you to give back to the community, especially the Italian community?
I will want to carry on what my grandparents and parents have done and instill that in my children. And two, there's something that feels good about giving back. So it's not just with the Italian community, but I'm also involved with other groups in raising funds and creating awareness because being blessed with what I have today, I believe in paying it forward and it always comes back.
Yeah. So I would imagine you obviously have quite a busy life with work and with the Italian stuff. What do you do to relax?
Well, in the winter, I haven't been out yet, but I do love to ski. We're hoping for better conditions, but I'm a bit of a princess. I'm not going out in -40. Um, I do love to stay fit, and that was not always the case throughout my life. So I would say over the last 2 decades, I've really taken on fitness and eating well and making sure that my longevity is there. And was even dealing with different clients and family members, I see the importance of
Yeah.
thinking ahead and also trying to lead by example with my kids about eating healthy and staying active.
Yeah.
So I
Mm.
do a lot of that. I love to travel. I don't do it as much as I should because of the business. So
Yeah.
working on that work-life balance, but definitely hoping to get back to Italy in the next year and then checking some items off my bucket list of places I haven't been to.
Like?
Egypt,
Ooh, wow.
Japan. Yeah, I've done a lot of Mexico. I've done kind of the cliche trips.
Yeah.
I was recently in Portugal and Paris over the summer. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
So I love experiencing different cultures, and I'm not afraid to dive in. So I've been to places like Thailand, and that was definitely stepping out of my comfort zone. And I also do that to test myself. So whether it's
Mm.
taking on a challenge on a difficult ski run, Black Diamond, or taking a trip to an unknown place where I may not know the language, it's taught me step out of the comfort zone, get past that experience. I got out of it unscathed. So then I take that into the business as well. And even just from a mindset perspective on a personal level, how
Mm.
do I expand the mind and live life to the fullest?
Oh, excellent. Well, thanks so much, Philomena, for joining us today.
Thank you, Mario. It was a pleasure.
All right. That was Philomena May, who is owner of Philo Financial Solutions and a senior wealth advisor for Raymond James. I'm Mario Tonaguzzi, managing editor of Canada's podcast, today with Calgary's podcast. Thanks for joining us.